A projectile leaves the barrel at Mach 6.
A projectile leaves the barrel at Mach 6.5, faster than any missile can blink. Across the sea, a turreted laser cuts the air with silent light. Shown off at Beijing's massive parade marking the 80-year anniversary of victory over Japan. Two visions of war. Japan's reborn US railgun. China's Lai-1 laser. One promises unstoppable kinetics. Slugs that smash anything in their path. The other claims infinite magazine depth. Beams that kill at the speed of light. Both are real. Both are pointed at the same waters. Which weapon actually works when the fight starts? That's the point, and it will decide who leads Asia's future, and we're about to break it. 1. The American railgun dream. America wanted a wonder gun. In the early 2000s, the US Navy poured money into railguns, convinced they had found the weapon that would end the missile age. No chemicals, no flash, just electromagnetism hurling projectiles at Mach 7. One shot carried the punch of 200,000 rifle rounds fired at once. The numbers dazzled. A 32 megajel railgun could throw a 23-pound slug at over 8,000 feet per second, nearly 7 times the speed of sound. Range, more than 100 m. Price tag, about $25,000 a shot. Compare that to a Tomahawk cruise missile at $1.88 to $4 million and it looked like a Pentagon accountant's dream. Missile killing power for the price of a Toyota. But physics refused to play nice. The gun needed 25 megawatts of power just to keep firing. That's the entire electrical output of a destroyer diverted into one cannon. Only the Zumwalt class with 78 megawatts on tap could even dream of feeding it. And barrel life ugly. After a 100 or so shots, rails wore down, accuracy fell off, and the risk of catastrophic failure went up. Guidance was another killer. A railgun slug is fast but dumb. Without homing, it could shred a tank or a ship if it hit. But against maneuvering missiles, the Navy wanted brains, not just brute force. Adding guidance meant adding complexity, size, and cost. Suddenly, the 25,000 slug looked a lot less cheap. Still, the hype rolled on. In 2014, videos of Mach 7 test shots went viral. Headlines called it the future of naval warfare. Congress wrote checks. By 2020, the Navy had burned through more than $500 million on the program. And in 2021, the funding vanished. The official line focus shifted to hypersonics and lasers. The unofficial truth. The Navy had spent $500 million to build a YouTube railgun channel, prove the thing could shoot, and then walked away. For America, the dream of an electromagnetic cannon died quietly in budget notes. But in Tokyo, it was just beginning. 2. Japan brings it back. While Washington shelved its wonder gun, Tokyo kept grinding. Japan's Acquisition, Technology, and Logistics Agency, ITLA, looked at America's abandoned blueprint, borrowed the good bits, fixed the weak spots, and by 2023, fired something the US Navy never managed. A railgun at sea, mounted on a warship aimed at a real target vessel. The test ship was JS Oscar, a 6,200-ton dedicated experiment platform. On her stern deck sat a turret unlike anything else afloat, a chunky squared-off box housing a 5-megajoule railgun. In June and July, ATLA announced the cannon fired slugs across the water, scoring the first ever live shots from a ship-mounted railgun into a target vessel. Not a lab test, not a trailer rig, a warship. The performance was more than symbolism. ATLA's test gun pushed slugs at Mach 6.5, around 2,230 meters per second, nearly 5,000 miles per hour. In trials, the weapon managed 120 consecutive shots without tearing itself apart. That's the holy grail, barrel life. America's prototypes shredded rails in a few dozen shots. Japan proved it could fire over 100 times without catastrophic erosion. For a tech once dismissed as unworkable, this was a shot heard around the Pacific. The system itself ran off containerized power, one 20-foot ISO container for charging. 3 more stacked with capacitors storing 5 megajoule per shot. Slugs weighed about 0.7 pounds each. ATLA tested 2 designs, a separated projectile with armor-piercing qualities and an integrated simplified version for cheaper production. Their goal: keep it affordable, keep it reliable, keep it firing. And Japan is thinking bigger. ATLA already mapped a roadmap to 20 megajoule guns, quadrupling the muzzle energy. Their presentations have shown railguns sketched onto future 13 DDX destroyers, the next generation fleet expected in the 2030s, and even mailless Aegis destroyers. What America abandoned as impractical, Japan is planning to deploy as operational naval hardware within a decade. The implications are huge. A Mach 6.5 slug doesn't care about jamming. It doesn't care about weather. It doesn't explode. It just smashes through whatever it hits with raw kinetic energy. Each round costs tens of thousands, not millions. Against cruise missiles, drones, or even hypersonic threats, that's a cost exchange Beijing can't win. China spends 10 to 15 million on a DF-17 or DF-26 missile. Japan spends 25,000 on a railgun shot that can swat it out of the sky. That's budget math Nollet bureau accountant wants to explain. And Tokyo isn't going alone. In 2024, Japan signed agreements with France and Germany for joint railgun development. ATLA officials have openly invited US contractors back into the program. Imagine the irony. America builds the hype, kills the project, then buys into the Japanese version when it works. For Japan, the timing couldn't be sharper. North Korean missile salvos, Chinese expansion in the South China Sea, PLA Navy parades showing off lasers and hypersonics. Tokyo needs a weapon that makes adversaries hesitate. The railgun isn't a silver bullet, but it's the kind of deterrent that says, fire your million-dollar toys. We'll kill them for the price of a Honda Civic. This is why the railgun isn't dead. It just moved zip code. Washington called it a YouTube experiment. Tokyo turned it into steel, fire, and Mach 6.5 reality. 3. China's laser army versus Japan's railgun. In 2025, Beijing staged more than a parade. On the 81st anniversary of victory over Japan, the PLA rolled out a weapon designed to send a message. The LY-1 high-energy laser mounted in a massive turret with a wide beam aperture and multiple tracking optics. It wasn't a dazzler to blind cameras. This was pitched as a frontline defense system. A beam meant to burn drones, fry missile seekers, and scorch anything flying too close to China's fleet. State media called it precision destruction and consistent strike. Analysts compared it to America's ALIOS program, a system powerful enough, at least in theory, to kill anti-ship missiles. The economics looked irresistible. Each shot costs only the electricity needed to fire, measured in cents. As long as there's power and cooling, the magazine is bottomless. A swarm of drones costing thousands apiece could be erased with laser bursts that barely nudge the electric bill. But the weaknesses are old and unforgiving. Lasers scatter in haze, rain, or salt spray. Atmospheric particles sap power with every kilometer. At sea, optics corrode under saltwater spray. Sustained dwell times, the few seconds required to melt through a supersonic missile, are fragile when your beam wobbles in turbulence. Even the US Navy, after a decade of ALIOS trials, admits ruggedizing sea lasers for combat has been painful. And while Beijing paraded the Li-1 in a road mobile version 2, the challenge is the same. Dust, humidity, and weather don't read propaganda. China wants the world to see a weapon with infinite magazine depth. Physics still sees a fragile beam. Across the East China Sea, Japan's answer couldn't be more different. The ATLA railgun tested on JS Oscar fires steel at Mach 6.5, nearly 2,230 meters per second, powered by a 5 megajoule capacitor bank packed into shipping containers. In testing, it fired 120 consecutive rounds without catastrophic rail wear for a technology long mocked as impossible. That was a breakthrough. Each shot cost about $25,000. Pocket change next to multi-million-dollar missiles. So, which system rules? The duel depends on the threat. Lasers excel at swarms. Imagine 100 drones launched at a destroyer. A railgun would spend $2.5 million shooting them down. A laser, pennies. That's China's sales pitch. Drown the enemy in drones, burn them away for nothing. Now, flip it. A salvo of 20 DF-17 hypersonic missiles worth roughly 250 million screams toward a fleet. Japan answers with 20 railgun rounds, $500,000 total, even if only half connect. The math is brutal. China pays millions per shot. Japan pays thousands. That's an exchange rate Beijing cannot sustain. Railguns don't care about fog or sandstorms. Lasers do. Lasers can fire endlessly. Railguns must reload, but with magazines measured in hundreds of rounds. Lasers kill silently. Railguns leave holes in steel. Neither wins every fight. Together, they're devastating. And here's the irony. The United States pioneered both. It built 32 megajoule railgun prototypes that hurled 23-pound slugs at Mach 7, spent $500 million proving it worked, then cancelled the program in 2021. It field-tested lasers like Helios, then bogged down in budgets and deployment delays. Today, Washington watches as Tokyo revives the railgun and Beijing parades lasers while America debates funding lines. 4. The shot that echoes. So, what does it all mean? Simple. Asia isn't waiting. China rolls out lasers at parades. Japan fires railguns at sea. And America debates funding lines. The weapons aren't just prototypes anymore. They're signals. Beijing is saying, we can blind and burn anything that flies. Tokyo is saying, we can punch through your million-dollar missiles for the cost of a car, and Washington. It's realizing that allies are now pulling the super weapon projects it once abandoned. For the US, the choice is clear. Join Japan's program, integrate lasers into its fleets, and actually feel the layered defenses it's been promising for 20 years, or watch the Pacific arms race unfold without it. For Japan, the railgun is more than a weapon. It's independence, deterrence, and a reminder that technology denied to one generation can roar back with the next. For China, the LY-1 is theater and threat rolled into one beam of light. A message that the balance of power is shifting. And here's the brutal truth. When the first shot echoes, it won't be missiles or jets that decide who leads. It'll be slugs at Mach 6.5 and beams of light. That duel will define Asia's skies. And if you want front row seats as we track every breakthrough, every new weapon, and every move in the shadow war. A projectile rocketed skyward at unbelievable speed, leaving a trail of ionized air and ore in its wake. This was Japan's bold announcement to the world. It had mastered the electromagnetic railgun, a weapon once thought to be the stuff of science fiction. More than a technological feat, it was a message to Beijing and the world. Japan was now a major player in next-generation warfare, ready to defend its interests with cutting-edge power. The era of gunpowder was ending. The age of electromagnetic force had begun, marking a turning point in military history. 4 years, superpowers chased the dream of a functional railgun. Hypersonic projectiles, pinpoint accuracy, and massive range that could change the face of naval combat forever. The US spent billions only to shove its project, frustrated by technical hurdles and budget constraints. Japan persisted, quietly solving the problems that stumped others. Working in silence while the world doubted their progress, Japanese engineers created a weapon both powerful and reliable for naval combat. A system that could be deployed in real-world conditions. The implications were immediate. Japan, long limited to self-defense, now had a weapon with both offensive and defensive potential, expanding its strategic options. It could shoot down missiles, aircraft, and drone swarms, or strike ships and land targets from afar, giving Japan a flexible and formidable new tool. This single test shifted the military balance in the Pacific, giving Japan a powerful deterrent and a new sword to protect its interests and allies. The shockwaves were felt most in Beijing, where China's military modernization suddenly faced a new and unexpected threat. China's belief in its technological edge was shattered, forcing a rapid reassessment of its own capabilities and strategies. Japan's railgun could potentially neutralize China's advanced systems, resetting the strategic balance and raising the stakes in any future conflict. The race for military supremacy in Asia had entered a new high-stakes chapter, with every nation watching and recalibrating their plans. The world's attention was now fixed on the Pacific as analysts and leaders debated what this breakthrough meant for global security. The rules of warfare had changed overnight, ushering in an era where technology and innovation would decide the balance of power. Japan had fired the opening shot in a new era, and the world would never look at naval power the same way again. The American railgun began as a vision of overwhelming power. A weapon that could change the very nature of naval warfare and redefine the future of military technology. Imagine warships firing hypersonic slugs at their enemies, delivering destruction at incredible speeds for just a fraction of what a missile would cost. Using massive bursts of electrical energy, the railgun could launch a metal slug at Mach 6, nearly 4,600 miles per hour, relying on sheer kinetic force alone with no need for explosives. The promise was huge. Safer ammunition storage, cheaper shots, and a devastating range that could outclass traditional naval guns. The U.S. Navy invested over $500 million building and testing prototypes that could punch through thick steel from miles away, impressing engineers and military strategists alike. But reality hit hard. The immense forces and extreme heat generated by each shot destroyed barrels after just a few dozen firings, making the weapon unreliable for real combat. Power systems needed to fire the railgun were too large and heavy for most ships, and advanced fire control struggled to maintain accuracy over such long distances. Costs soared. Technical problems mounted. And after years of effort, the Navy quietly shelved the project, leaving many disappointed. Focus shifted to hypersonic missiles, more practical, less risky, and easier to deploy with existing technology. The railgun's cancellation was a rare American setback in advanced weaponry, leaving a void for other nations to fill in a sense of unfinished business. The dream wasn't dead, just waiting for someone else to solve the puzzle. Japan was watching closely and learning from every American misstep. The hard lessons of failure in the US would become the seeds of future success elsewhere, inspiring new generations of engineers. The railgun story was far from over. Its legacy would echo in the innovations yet to come. While America stumbled, Japan took a different path, prioritizing reliability over raw power. Japanese engineers with partners like Japan Steelworks tackled the biggest issue, barrel life. Through new alloys and designs, they built a railgun that could withstand repeated firing. The breakthrough came at sea. The JSU test ship fired its railgun flawlessly, integrated with ship power and targeting. This was a leap beyond land tests, proving the weapon's viability in real naval conditions. Collaboration was key. After the US paused its program, American experts shared data, helping Japan avoid old pitfalls. The result, a practical, cost-effective, medium cyber railgun ready for deployment. Japan had not just revived the railgun, it had perfected it for the modern fleet. The Phoenix had risen and it wore Japanese colors. Japan's railgun is a game-share for one reason above all: cost. This revolutionary weapon system is set to redefine naval warfare, not just for Japan, but for the entire region. A single missile can cost millions of dollars, draining defense budgets with every launch. In contrast, a railgun slug costs just thousands, making it a far more economical choice for modern navies. This affordability means defending against swarms of drones or incoming missiles is now practical. No longer will navies risk bankrupting themselves with each defensive shot. The railgun's incredible velocity and rapid rate of fire make it perfect for intercepting not only traditional threats, but also advanced ballistic and hypersonic missiles that were previously almost impossible to stop. Its mere presence on Japanese warships forces adversaries to rethink their strategies, introducing a new level of uncertainty for any potential aggressor. The simple, inert projectiles are much safer to store and handle, allowing ships to carry far more ammunition than ever before and reducing the risks of catastrophic accidents. With deeper magazines and fewer resupply needs, Japan's Navy can now stay in the fight longer, maintaining a powerful presence during extended operations at sea. This new capability doesn't just boost Japan's defenses, it elevates the nation from a junior partner to a true technological leader in the region, inspiring allies and deterring rivals. It also strengthens the US-Japan alliance, giving Tokyo a greater and more influential role in regional security and ensuring both nations are better prepared for future challenges. For the first time in decades, Japan has developed a homegrown weapon that truly reshapes the Indo-Pacific balance, signaling a new era of innovation and self-reliance. The railgun is both shield and sword, transforming Japan's place in Asia and giving it a decisive edge in maritime security. The balance of power has shifted and the world is watching as Japan leads the way into the future of naval warfare. As Japan perfected kinetic power, China turned to light, unveiling the LY-1, a truck-mounted military laser. Chinese media called it a revolutionary air defense tool able to silently destroy drones and munitions. Its main advantage, an infinite magazine and ultra-low cost per shot, just electricity. Lasers hit at the speed of light, making them ideal for swatting down fast, cheap threats. The Li-1 was showcased as ready for deployment, projecting an image of unstoppable Chinese progress. But the laser is just one part of China's broader push for directed energy weapons, including ship-mounted systems. The goal, a layered defense, mixing missiles, guns, and lasers. Lasers aren't replacements, but critical complements, perfect for close-in defense. China's message, it's racing to dominate the future battlefield. The arms race had a new silent contender. Despite the hype, lasers like China's LY-1 have major weaknesses. Their greatest enemy is the air itself. Rain, fog, dust, and smoke scatter and weaken the beam. In bad weather, a powerful laser might barely reach its target. Lasers also demand huge amounts of electricity and generate intense heat, requiring bulky power and cooling systems. Firing rates are limited by overheating. Lasers must dwell on a single spot for seconds to burn through, a problem against fast or spinning targets. Simple countermeasures like reflective coatings or rapid spinning can defeat them. Lasers excel at close-range defense against slow drones in clear weather, but struggle in real combat conditions. They are specialized tools, not superweapons. The silent killer has a visible Achilles heel. The environment and physics in the chaos of battle, lasers are just one piece of the puzzle. Japan's railgun and China's laser represent two philosophies: brute force versus focused energy. The railgun's projectile is immune to weather, striking with hypersonic power in any condition. Its range far exceeds that of lasers, hitting targets over a 100 m away. Railgun slugs are nearly impossible to intercept and destroy on impact. Lasers, meanwhile, excel at close-in defense. Speed of light delivery, ultra-low cost, perfect for drone swarms. In practice, the best defense combines both railguns for long-range threats, lasers for close-in swarms. Imagine a Chinese attack. Japan's railguns target incoming missiles from afar, lasers mop up drones, and leakers at close range. The two systems are not rivals, but partners in layered defense. Each fills a gap the other cannot. The future of naval warfare is not either or, it's both, working together. The arms race is about integration, not just innovation. The battlefield is evolving fast. Japan and China's new weapons mark a turning point in Asia's arms race. Both nations are moving beyond imported tech, building their own cutting-edge systems. For Japan, the railgun signals a new era of self-reliance and proactive defense. For China, lasers and hypersonics are tools to challenge US dominance. The US welcomes Japan's rise, but worries about China's rapid progress. The old technological gap is closing fast. Asia's security is now a three-way contest: US, China, and a resurgent Japan. This could stabilize the region through mutual deterrence or spark a dangerous new arms race. The future hangs in a delicate balance.